Let's discuss all of this with Dominic Romano, attorney and founder of the Romano Law Firm, and Wendy Patrick, attorney and political analyst. And Wendy, it's one thing for a group of potential defendants to have a joint defense agreement, but it's something quite different when it's a joint defense agreement that involves providing information while your client is supposed to be cooperating under a plea deal. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No. It's very unusual, but you could ask me that question about every monumental legal boundary that we've crossed during the Mueller investigation since May of last year, if you can believe it's been going on that long, and I would have given you the same answer. Now, that's not to say that it's impermissible, simply because we don't see it very often. You don't see somebody playing both sides of the fence. Are you a cooperating witness or are you some sort of a co-conspirator? That's a false choice. It is entirely possible, as Rudy Giuliani explained, that they just are looking for information as to what Mueller's team is. Well, why wouldn't they want to know? It's not impermissible. The question, however, and why everybody's crying obstruction of justice, is the argument is, well, gosh, isn't this pardon dangling somehow designed to get Paul Manafort to say the right things? But obviously that's not true. You just heard his plea deal fell apart, and he's now going to be sentenced as if he never cooperated.
Dominic, what do you think? Did Manafort really intended to flip on the president, or was it all part of a game?
Well, we don't know what's in his mind, but we know the results, right? It's almost like a double agent. He's feeding both sides. It looks like he may have chosen the wrong horse here, and he may be wearing that orange jumpsuit for a lot longer than he was expecting.
And one of the reasons is that, prosecutors, in order to be able to tell the court that they know Manafort was lying, they presumably have other witness testimony, maybe from Rick Gates, his assistant, who is not playing both sides. Maybe it's documents, maybe it's evidence that Rick Gates and others have provided. So, Manafort could be in some serious trouble, and the people who are supporting Manafort could be in some serious trouble because they still may not know exactly what the prosecutors have.
Absolutely. Not only Manafort, but President Trump's team. Giuliani gloating about what could amount to obstruction of justice, the very fact of receiving this information. It's not illegal, but some would categorize it as highly unethical. And under the pattern of the circumstances that we're living in now that Trump's decided to go full Nixon, very damaging to the president.
Wendy, on Twitter today, the president made a very serious accusation. He said that the Mueller team is telling witnesses to lie about facts in order to get relief. According to what the president is saying, we need a special counsel to oversee the special counsel investigation.
Tall, Dominic, and Dave, we all know this is the way the president talks. He doesn't necessarily mean exactly what he says, and he's imprecise. That's why everybody's worried about a perjury trap. If that trap snaps in his written responses, for example, people are going to say, oh, yeah, but this is what he said. But was he serious? You know, perjury, both perjury and obstruction of justice, those charges are harder to prove than people think. You can't just say, well, gosh, somebody did this. It looks like circumstantial evidence, pardon dangling. You must be trying to obstruct justice. No, you need to prove intent. So, too, with perjury. It has to be a willful misrepresentation, not a reckless statement, not imprecision, which the president is famous for. It's much harder to prove both of those crimes. So even though, and I love Dominic's double agent terminology, even though that looks like what we've had, that is not enough to show that the president is even attempting to obstruct justice.
The president's words, his tweets, we've got a whole volume of information that establishes a pattern, and these indictments are speaking indictments. Mueller is methodically making his case in public, and I think it does not look good for the president. It's getting close to his inner circle, and we're seeing his upset. We're seeing his angst right now.
One of the issues that...
It might not look good.
Go ahead,
It might
Wendy.
not look good. And I agree, you know, optics are bad, but that doesn't mean that legally they're going to meet the elements of obstruction of justice.
We'll
no
see,
doubt
Wendy.
the president's
We will
frustrated.
see.
It's been 17 months. We will see, and I'm sure we'll be on together talking about it when and if we actually get there. But there's just a lot of elements, a lot more intent than I think we've seen thus far.
But Wendy, let me give you an example. Paul Manafort was part of the Trump Tower campaign meeting in which they were allegedly meeting with the Russians to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. President Trump has denied knowing anything about it, even though he spoke publicly a few days before about all this information he was going to have a news conference about with Hillary Clinton. The news conference never happened after the meeting with the Russians. The president's personal lawyer says the president knew about the meeting in advance. And then there's Paul Manafort. If the president has said in these written answers, no, I didn't know about the meeting, they've got him possibly if they can prove otherwise, right?
Absolutely, they have
Depends
him.
on how he said it, Dave. It's a great... Go ahead, Dominic, and then I'll respond.
Look,
Because
the
I got a
bottom
great
line is-
response to this.
Manafort has been caught lying repeatedly, right? You have the Microsoft Word document when he alleged that he wrote that.
I want to give Wendy 20 seconds because
Yeah.
that's all we have left in this segment. Wendy, go ahead.
It depends on how he said it. If he said to the best of my recollection and then made a statement, that's not the same thing as perjury. Perjuries are willfully false statements of facts. If you are misremembering something, that's not going to make it on a perjury
Good point.
charge.
Wendy, Patrick, Dominic Romano, terrific conversation. We will have you back because this story's not going away.